Testing. Are we on here?
I hope not.
Turn the microphone on. Can you just generally talk about playing a matinee day game?
You know, I have no control over the schedule, so it is what it is. They tell us to show up at 3 o'clock and play. That's what we do. My preference would be a 7, 8 o'clock game on a Saturday night, get this place rocking, and have the matinee for Sunday afternoons. But once again, that's out of our control, and we're looking forward to a great game today against Charlotte.
They beat you last time. Do players and coaches ever think about revenge?
I wouldn't say revenge necessarily, but you obviously want to even up the score. Nothing personal happened in that game, but you wanted to make sure you don't get swept by anybody. I think it's more about pride. When you go back to that game, the funny thing is we won the first quarter, we won the third, and we won the fourth. It was that second quarter where they outscored us 40-28. And the big point of emphasis is their bench. They're the third highest scoring bench in the NBA, and that night their bench scored 59 points against us, led by Tony Parker and Malik Monk. So it's not just the Kemba Walker show. He's a great player, and he requires a lot of attention, but they have a lot of other players playing at a high level.
You've got a 4-game win streak now, and you've got Gary and Millsap, at least they have been coming off the bench. What goes into your decision on when to put them back in? Do you worry about jeopardizing that 4-game streak, keep the same guys, or how do you go about that?
Yeah, it's a tough one. It definitely is. It's something we've had a lot of discussions about, but we're 8-2 in the last 10 games. Last 10 games, our starting unit has the second highest offensive efficiency in the NBA in the first quarter. So, sometimes you don't want to ruin a good thing, but at the end of the day, I know that both Paul and Gary Harris are starters. So, they will be back in the starting lineup in a timely manner, but when that is a tough decision to make. I'm going to stay with what we're doing right now. I think it's working. Gary closed last game, played 31 minutes, and Paul got 22 minutes off the bench and did some good things as well. But for tonight's game, I'm going to stick with what we've been doing.
I think only Ben Simmons has more screen assists among guards this year than Jamal Murray. You guys are using him overall in a lot more screen. He set a screen that came off to hit a big 3 out of a timeout the other night. What is the process with him and using him a lot in that form, in that action, and how it's helped the offense?
Yeah, I think it's Mason as a big is a great screener, and Jamal for the last couple of years, and I've said it many times, is one of our best screeners regardless of size. So if we want to get Nicole the ball in the post, I use Jamal as a screener because one, they're not going to switch a point guard on to Nicola, but Jamal is willing to give up his body and make contact and create separation, which is so important. And the other part of it is, as you mentioned, the play we drew up in a timeout. If Jamal sets a great screen, his man has to help. So the better screen he sets, the more open he is going to be. And I learned that a long time ago from my father. The screen is going to be freer than the man he screens for. But you got to give Jamal a lot of credit. He's not afraid of making contact. A lot of guys, when you ask them to go set a screen, it's like ships in the night. There is no contact. But Jamal thrives on that contact and is not afraid of it.
Speaking of Jamal, he averaged 36 minutes in December. How do you balance getting the most out of him versus not overexerting him?
Yeah, it's right now, it's more about his health and making sure that his ankles, and he's going to fight through everything. He never wants to come out of the game. He's a tough kid mentally and physically. But to your point, we don't want to just think about today. You got to also step back sometimes and think big picture. And we want to be a team that's playing well after the middle of April. But we'll continue to monitor his situation. When we need to rest him, we will. Obviously, we have Monte, we have Gary coming back, and when we get Will Barton back, I think that will allow us to rest guys a little bit more and use guys in different roles, so you're not so dependent upon them night in and night out.
Is it a little bit tough when he's stubborn and doesn't really want to come out, or?
No, because ultimately I know who I'm dealing with, and sometimes that's my job as a head coach. I really don't care what you have to say, Jamal. I'm doing what's best for you. You may not realize this in the moment, but you got to take a seat here because we're going to need you moving forward. He's such a big part of what we're doing.
You guys have been one of the better teams in the league
late in
games. Specifically late in games, late in 5-point games in the final couple minutes. What in your mind has shifted so much from last year to this year?
Well, I thought we were pretty good last year. I mean, games decided by 3 points or less. We were 10-5, which is one of the better records in the NBA in that situation. I think this year we spent a lot of time, especially after that 4-game losing streak, because a lot of those 4-game losing streak we had, Harrison, and you know this, those were all close games, and we could have won. but because we had a lack of execution and too many breakdowns, we didn't pull those wins out. So I think right now you can see the confidence that both Jamal and Nicole have, especially down the stretch. We know what our go-to package is. We execute it well. We space the floor properly, and we allow those guys to make the right reads and make the right plays. And to their credit, they're stepping up in big situations and doing that. And that's really all it is. It's repetition, it's confidence, and making sure we're learning when we don't do things the way we're supposed to.
Tori's, go ahead.
I was going to say the fact that, like you said, you know what your late game package is with Jamal and with Nicole. The fact that roles are defined in fourth quarter, is that something that helps too?
Yeah, I think that's always going to help. Throughout the game, as well as into a fourth quarter, guys understanding that late game the ball will be in Jamal and Nicola's hands. Not that you won't be able to make a play because they're going to garner so much attention. You have to be ready to space the floor and be ready to make a play yourself. And I think we've seen examples of that, other guys stepping up in late games. But role definition, I think, is important for any team throughout the game, especially in fourth quarters.
Torrey Craig really seems to have shot himself out of the early outside shooting slump that he had. How much are you seeing that kind of help open things up with how well he's doing from outside?
Yeah, that's a big part of us having a really good offense in the last 10 games is the fact that Torrey is not just being regarded as he's out there to guard. If you leave him open, he can also step up and make a shot. He can also get to the basket. I thought the other night in Sacramento in the third quarter, his ability to track down long rebounds and offensive rebounds was huge. And Jaeger pulled Bogdanovich out of the game very quickly because he was not boxing Torrey Craig out. So Torrey's impacting the game in a lot of ways, but if he can become that consistent three-point shooter where teams have to guard him, that's going to open up his game and as well open up our game as well.
Thanks, guys. 2 close games. Another guy that's closed out for you guys has been Beasley. Does that surprise you? You look back just on where he started to where he's now, that he garners the trust to be able in close games and close games out for you?
Yeah, and I think even earlier in the year he was, with the injuries that we've had, he was closing out games on the road as well. And, he's earned it, and with the way he's shooting the ball right now and some of the teams that we played recently, as you know, Scott, they've gone ultra small. And I like Malik's ability to guard and contain on the perimeter, as well as his ability to space the floor and shoot the ball as well as he's shot lately. So give Malik a lot of credit. He went from a guy last year that was in and out of the rotation, somewhat inconsistent, to being a guy right now that we can trust and we can lean on to close out games. And that speaks to his growth as a player.
Thanks, guys.
Appreciate it, everybody.